Hey guys, welcome back to my comic review series on IDW Sonic the Hedgehog, where I cover each and every issue. Today I'll be doing a review of issue 7, where it is the first issue in the IDW series to feature a one-off side story. As usual, I will provide some recap before we take a look at the issue. Sonic and the Chaotix are confronted by Shadow and Rouge, as the former threatens to kill Mr. Tinker, who is actually the real Dr. Eggman that's been blessed with amnesia. Sonic defends Mr. Tinker by stopping Shadow in his tracks, leading the two rivals into a big scuffle. During that, after the Chaotix realize that they are outmatched in terms of speed, Vector instead chastises Rouge on why she thought it was a good idea to bring Shadow into the village, and Rouge replies by saying that Shadow was already searching for Eggman during his own quest, and mentioned that the anonymous tip that the Chaotix received was nothing more than a convenience, and that they had enough time to consult Sonic's assistance while leading Shadow to the village, as she knew Eggman would eventually be discovered and investigated, which reveals that the tip was the courtesy of her, believe it or not. After the revelation about the so-called Eggman Land, which is a harmless theme park, everybody parts ways with each other. We cut to the final scene where it reveals the mysterious figure who happens to be another Eggman for some reason. This ended up leading to even more speculations about whether or not it's Eggman or somebody else, as this reveal may likely be a fake out. Thankfully, in this very issue, we are finally going to find out who it is. The main cover for this issue is very noteworthy and extraordinary, as Sonic is depicted infiltrating the Egg Fleet and plows through the egg ponds in his path while also dodging the cannons. This may possibly be a reference to the opening cutscene from Sonic Unleashed, which has been considered by fans to be one of the best looking and perfectly animated cutscenes the franchise has ever seen. Another cool thing about this cover is the reference to the 3 consoles that were created by Sega, who was formerly a first-party company, which are shown on the ship's panel. The buttons on the left side are a reference to the Sega Dreamcast controller, the buttons on the right side are a reference to the Sega Genesis controller, and the red button on the middle is a reference to the Sega Saturn controller. As someone who's never owned any Sega console, and especially as one who wasn't alive during the time of their lifespan, except for the Dreamcast, I have to say this is actually a great way to please older fans such as myself, and it kinda shows that even Sega themselves miss making consoles. If only we lived in an alternate timeline where the Dreamcast was actually a successful system. Anyways, this cover was drawn by Kyron Gates. He did an impressive job as usual. I really like how he made it to be more focused on the setting, rather than having Sonic in the front and center of the cover in order to catch the reader's attention. Not one of the best in the comic, but unique in presentation. As the story begins, Sonic and Tails are flying across the skies in the X-Tornado as they spot the same battleship that they blew up twice in that titular stage from Sonic Heroes, which appears from the bottom of the clouds. Sonic comments on how this battleship wasn't detected by the radar, and Tails replies by stating that he has no clue and commends the Blue Blur for noticing it. He suspects that the bases may be performing some maneuvers and could be carrying out orders from somewhere. He hands Sonic the Mouse electric device and tells him to connect it to any nearby computer and download any possible information it will reveal. Sonic, admitting he's not the tech guy, is not very sure on how to use the device. Thankfully, Tails had already customized it to have universal Wi-Fi accessibility, and the go button is all that Sonic needs to push. He then jumps off the X-Tornado and infiltrates the battleship. Also, typical Sonic fashion right there. Upon entering, he stealthily sneaks past an egg pond, Insomniac Spider-Man style, then breaks in. Suddenly, Eggman appears before him along with a series of egg ponds. He begins to gloat about his latest genius plan, but Sonic cuts him off, calling him a faker, and explains that he already met the real Eggman, who currently has amnesia and who's obviously not involved in any of this. So the question is, who is this mysterious person that was behind all of the Badnik attacks in the first 5 issues? Well, seeing as how he's out of options to conceal his identity, he reveals himself to be none other than Neo Metal Sonic? What?! Freaking way! It's Neo Metal Sonic from Sonic Heroes, a character who I never thought would actually return. I am beyond speechless. Like, what? So, back in my issue 1 review, one of my first guesses was Metal Sonic. However, I didn't expect it would be his Neo form. So I guess I was partially correct, but not completely. God dang, IDW was so sick for this. Like, my god. So yes, the mysterious figure who terrorized the villages with several Batniks was Neo Metal Sonic this whole time. Sonic recalls encountering Metal's new form and remarks on how Metal previously took over the Eggman Empire but was defeated by Sonic and the gang, all of which that took place in Sonic Heroes. Metal Sonic explains his backstory on how he regained this form after those events, as well as his main motivations for his previous acts. He was rebuilt by Eggman so that the Fat Doctor could use him as part of his plan for the final battle between the Eggman War and the Resistance. During this process, Eggman gave Metal his own biodata, which included his drive, his visions, and genius. However, as he was completed, the Resistance had already won against the Eggman War. Since then, Neo Metal began enhancing Eggman's biodata by using his persona to not only complete the Doctor's legacy, but to also ensure that Eggman's reign of terror will remain unbroken. But because he knows only the true Eggman can control the Empire, he tells Sonic he must know of his creator's location so that he can hand over control to him. After hearing this, Sonic now understands how it all adds up, and how the real Metal Sonic was never present during the Eggman War incident, which was an occurrence in Sonic Forces. Immediately afterwards, he claims that he will kick his butt before he gets to conquer anything, and begins to attack him. He manages to do decent damage to Neo Metal and knock him down, but Neo Metal recovers almost instantly and copies Sonic's data, which powers him up. He fights back by striking Sonic with a move that kinda reminds me of Mega Man's charge kick from Mega Man 5, and the fight ensues from there. They exchange for blow to blow for a couple of panels until Sonic gets knocked into a control panel. He notes that he's capable of handling a battleship and that having to deal with its badniks could be troublesome but still doable, but Metal proves to be an even bigger problem than them, and that he decides to bail. He dodges Neo Metal's attacks and starts running out of the ship while Neo Metal gives chase. The vicious robot has his landing batteries on the ship open fire, but all of them whiff completely. Neo Metal commands every egg pawn and troop on the battleship to surround, stop the Blue Blur in his tracks, and pin him down, while still keeping him alive. Sonic fights his way through the Egg Fleet's artillery, such as the cannons from the titular level from Heroes, and several egg pawns with minimal difficulty, plowing through most of them, and even grabbing their swords, and destroys everything in sight and throws it into another cannon, destroying it as well, and literally the most coolest way possible. Why doesn't he do this in the games? Heck if I know. Suddenly, Neo Metal appears without any warning, backhands Sonic from behind, and grabs him by the throat. Being fed up with all this, he once again demands Sonic about Eggman's current location, but Sonic refuses, saying that if Neo Metal kills him, he'll never know. But Neo Metal counters this by saying that it doesn't matter as long as he has his own original plan and Sonic's biodata. He will do anything in his power to scour the world in order to find his creator, and warns Sonic he must tell him or fall to his death. With no other choice he has, Sonic instead replies that he will never fear the fall, and breaks free of Neo Metal's grasp and escapes. And again, typical Sonic fashion right here. Believing he has won, Metal Sonic clears that he is the true Sonic, only to notice that Sonic was just saved at the nick of time once again by Tails. He once again commands his troops and cannons to blow the X-Tornado out of the sky, but it's too little too late as they are already destroyed by Sonic beforehand. Regardless, Neo Metal Sonic considers this fight to be his victory, as he knows Eggman is still alive and that Sonic knows very little of his plans. As such, he has his battleship rendezvous with the rest of the Egg Fleet in pursuit of his next target. Back at the Resistance HQ, Sonic and Tails meet up with Amy and Knuckles. Sonic informs the whole story about Neo Metal Sonic's return, much to Knuckles' dismay. Amy asks if Sonic was able to download any data or find out about Neo Metal's plans, but Sonic replies that things did not go as planned, but instead escalated very quickly. Knuckles comments on the fact that it's a relief that they know it isn't Eggman this time, but Tails reminds him that Neo Metal is still a dangerous threat with high level intelligence, Sonic's abilities, and limited stamina, which prompts Knuckles to tell him to shut up. This moment kind of feels like a Sonic X scene. Sonic, knowing there's not much they could do about the current situation, wonders if there is a record of Eggman's old plans that can be found, as Knuckles agrees. Amy takes this as an opportunity to send out a call to the rest of the Resistance, hoping they will find some evidence as well before all is lost. With this, knowing full well this plan will go as intended, Team Sonic celebrates with the real superpower of teamwork! Meanwhile, back on the Egg Fleet, Neo Metal Sonic orders his troops to commence docking features while cursing out the Sonic that he has already won, and allowing his organic counterpart to take the time that he needs. The final panel reveals that he has set his sights on his next target that I mentioned earlier, Angel Island, as well as a glowing green object indicated in the bottom of it, which is the Master Emerald, ending the issue's story. Holy cow, this issue was fantastic! Compared to the previous IDW issues, this was the one I looked forward to reviewing the most, as it is the best IDW Sonic issue by far. I already said that about issue 4, which featured Blaze and Tangle as its main highlights, but this is on a whole nother level. First off, this art style was so flippin' awesome! Like, what the heck? Look at the way Sonic jumps out of the Egg Fleet battleship. It's so cool. This shot of Neo Metal Sonic's reveal is so well detailed. This whole fight sequence of Sonic and Neo Metal through all these panels, which is so anime and manga inspired. Sonic doing a Mr. Krabs move against all the egg pods and creates a hole through a cannon. Oh my god, this art style is so fantastic. Ah! Alright, gonna calm down now. I literally couldn't help myself. But yes, I love this issue's art style. It's one of the best looking ones in the comic, and it totally fits for the fight sequences. This was handled by Adam Bryce Thomas, and I gotta say, this was a massive improvement over his work on issue 2. As I said in the review in that issue, his art style didn't click with me at first, but the more I read that, the more I began to appreciate it more than I realized. See that video for more information. But here he absolutely cooked. The fight scenes especially make it extremely superb, especially with a lot of action throughout the rest of the fight. It has such unique choreography all throughout many instances and gradual details of both these characters leaving boost trails speeding up and attacking, and even moments like Neo Metal sliding on the surface of the battleship. They are so cool to look at each time. Adam did a spectacular job on all of these. Next highlight is the main antagonist of the issue, Metal Sonic, or should I say, Neo Metal Sonic. As I said earlier, I didn't think they'd actually bring him back, and I literally lost my crap when I saw this the first time. I literally fanboyed so hard. So for those who don't know who Neo Metal Sonic is, this character is an enhanced transformation of Metal Sonic, gaining the ability to scan life data, copy other characters' abilities, replicating their attributes, and even capable of speaking, which even in this comic is never explained how he can, so whatever I guess. He also gains an ability to shapeshift into other characters, and can perfectly impersonate them, which was shown throughout most bosses in Sonic Heroes, which is first revealed in the cutscene after the Egg Albatross boss, and in Team Rose's final cutscene. Some people have speculated that the note that Team Sonic read in their first cutscene, that the one who sent it was Metal Sonic and not Eggman. As far as I'm aware, there's no real indication or explanation that it was Metal Sonic who sent the message. I do know that in Team Rose's story, there was a Sonic-like figure shown in a newspaper kidnapping Froggy and Chocola, which indicates that Metal Sonic shapeshifted into him, but both of these can't be true at the same time. Actually, wait. In fact, them sharing the same levels and fighting the same bosses can't be true at the same time either. So what the heck am I saying? Anyway, Metal Sonic was portrayed as a mostly secretive figure until the very end of the game, where he reveals himself to the heroes. There, he transformed into a monstrous version of himself with the use of copying data from all the teams, barring Team Chaotix, and Chaos data from Froggy. And the fact that they incorporated this plot element in this comic was very well done, and such a perfect build-up since the very first issue. Of course, the character himself was also greatly written too, and he was absolutely the best part of this issue. As a Sonic Heroes fanboy who pretty much loves almost everything about it, including its story, and the quote-unquote corny lines of dialogue, I love this version of Metal Sonic, and I think he has the best design out of all the Metal Sonic variants, and it's pretty darn well underrated. And to see that IDW brought him back was literal chef's kiss. Obviously, this won't be the last time we'll see him, as going by the ending where he plans to take over Angel Island, he may prove to be even more of an issue than before. Once again, staff at IDW, thank you so freaking much for bringing him back. Next highlight in the issue are the references, callbacks, and Easter eggs. First, the device that Tails gives Sonic in the beginning is the Miles Electric, which has been used in a couple of games since Sonic Unleashed, and it's also in the Paramount film series as well, which is also really cool. Second, when Sonic jumps off the X Tornado, he makes a pose while doing a free fall while nonchalantly crossing his arms. This is a reference to Sonic Lost World and Sonic Forces, where if no buttons are pressed during the free fall sections, Sonic will turn around and make an annoyed expression with his arms crossed. If you weren't aware of this before, now you are. Third, the goggles that Tails wears while he pilots the X Tornado bear a resemblance to the ones he wore in the Sonic Riders games. Was this foreshadowing? Fourth, this pole that Sonic grabs onto is identical to the ones in Sonic Heroes, which is normally activated with a wind-based attack. Fifth, Metal Sonic being repaired by Eggman in the flashback pays homage to the opening scene of the Sonic OVA movie. Not sure if this was intentional or a coincidence, but either way, still a unique touch. Sixth, in this panel, Sonic mentions that he will never fear the fall. This line is derived from the main theme song of Sonic 06, titled His World. This is the second time a vocal song from a game is referenced in IDW, the first being issue 2. Seventh and last one is the flower that is shown in the Resistance HQ, which is the same one that appears in Sonic Forces title screen after beating the game. And I guess that's pretty much every reference I could find in this issue, and there's not much to talk about compared to the previous issues. We don't meet any new or recurring characters, nor do we have a side plot element like in issues 5 and 6. It really seems like they wanted to make this issue the ultimate climax of both the Fallout and the Fate of Dr. Eggman sagas, and honestly, while I am disappointed that nothing else happens here plot-wise, I actually think it's a good thing they kept it as one cohesive plot. We finally got an answer to who the mysterious figure was, why he set up all the Badnik attacks against the villages, and how he planned to set up an ambush against Sonic and Amy at the end of the first issue, and how he began to show interest in the Master Emerald at the end of the third issue, leading up to the real revelation in this issue. Tell me how Iron Flynn is a terrible writer again? Goodness, you lousy Sonic fans. So for this issue, I will give it a solid 9 out of 10. Fantastic storytelling with the climax of the last two arcs, that big shocking reveal of Metal Sonic being the actual culprit of the Badnik crimes, the fight scenes being super detailed and incredibly, amazingly, and enormously choreographed even more than before, and the references are spot on. Though this is something that the fanbase clowns on Ian Flynn for, which I don't understand, but that's a topic for another time. I would have given it a 10 out of 10 if there was more to this plot, but given that it still lasted 20 pages, I guess it's for the better to keep it as a one-issue side story. So as per always in these videos, let's talk about the variant covers for this issue, and already we got something good here. For the first time since issue 1, we now have more than just 2 or 3 covers, and all of them are freaking awesome. Let's go over them one by one. Starting off with cover B, it displays Sonic and Tails soaring through the skies on the X Tornado as the giant battleship emerges from the clouds. I want to assume this might have likely happened before the very first page of the issue itself, since that's where they literally notice a ship coming up behind them. Aside from that, it's pretty basic, though I will say it does give plenty of Sky Chase vibes from the games, so I guess it gets a major plus. As if you couldn't tell by the art style used in this cover, It was also done by Adam Bryce Thomas, and he did just as amazing as in the issue itself. Next up is the RA cover. Very mesmerizing and ethereal setting for this cover, as Sonic and Tails are standing on a surface and are surrounded by silhouettes of Egg Ponds and Eggman himself, who is actually Metal Sonic at this point, along with a giant hand about to grab the duo. I wonder if that's a reference to the Titanic Monarch boss fight from Sonic Mania, which, spoiler warning, that's actually my favorite level in that game. I don't know why that level gets hate, but whatever. But all in all though, great cover as it represents the main plot of the issue. Once again, drawn by the legendary Nathalie Fordrain, being the 7th variant cover she has made. Don't know what else to say about her art style that I didn't already say in the previous reviews. I just know that she never misses every time. Next up is the convention exclusive cover. This one shows a defensive Sonic and Tails who see Eggman as the latter appears in front of them. You wanna know what this reminds me of? That Sonic Boom scene where literally the same thing happens. Cinematic parallels right here. There's no way that this wasn't intentional. Is Jamal Peppers a fan of Sonic Boom or something? Jokes aside, I loved his work on this cover. Hope to see more from him in this comics run. Last one is another convention exclusive cover, and this one is my personal favorite out of all the covers. Based on what I can view what's happening here, it looks like Metal Sonic is trying to read Sonic's movements and his point of view while copying his abilities. And rereading this issue for this video, turns out I was correct. See this? It says Battle Systems Log 12.8_up, his movements, I can see them. So yeah, this is actually from Metal Sonic's point of view. How amazing is that? Adam Bryce Thomas cooked again with this cover. It's still crazy how he started off decent in issue 2, but greatly improved in this one. Cannot stress that enough. So that's it for this issue's variant covers. Glad we finally got more than 3 covers, even though there weren't as many as issue 1, but still more than issues 2 to 6. And cover B and the second convention exclusive cover stand out the most and are one of my favorites in the comic. And that concludes my IDW Sonic issue 7 review. It continues to show what made IDW Sonic so great, and I'm still ecstatic at the fact that they brought back Neo Metal Sonic. Never thought I would geek out this much at something like this. Also, this might be my last video for 2024, as it is about to reach its end at the time of this video's publish date. Next year will be the 1-year anniversary of the first IDW Sonic review video, as well as the 9-year anniversary of my YouTube channel. To celebrate, I will be releasing a compilation video of the first 4 IDW reviews, which are a part of the Fallout saga, featured in the first graphic novel, which I still own to this day. Some of those videos in that compilation may have some minor changes, but they are merely done to improve the quality. Will be released on January 1st, 2025. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this whole review. Next time we'll be taking a look at issue 8, where we will be meeting a vastly underrated character in the franchise, Skiver the Hedgehog. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.